So my husband and I decided to be foster parents. Um, well, a couple of different reasons. One, my husband has been to China on multiple mission trips, and he really wanted to adopt from China. But the organization we wanted to go to, I didn't meet the age requirements, and we hadn't been married long enough. So we had started kind of looking into other options, and we had wanted to foster before we had children because we wanted our children to grow up with that. So that was just a part of their life. Mm-hmm. And so we had started looking into fostering. We also were very convicted because we had this 3-bedroom house that only my parents stayed in once a year at Christmas. And we were just really convicted that God would bless us with all this room, and we had no intentions of having children anytime soon. And there was an adoptions conference at a church, and so we went there to get more information. And I had been led to kind of foster. My husband wasn't quite there yet, and I think going to that conference and speaking with Miracle Hill and some of the people there just kind of eased a lot of our concerns about fostering and what it was and what it wasn't. And I think by going through that process, my husband was a lot more at peace about, I feel like we're being led to do this too. And we felt like the scripture verse where it says you should sell everything you have and give it to the poor, and we figured this was kind of our way of doing that, just giving the poor everything that we had, opening our home and everything else to them. So we started with a foreign exchange student. We figured if we can take care of a teenager, 16-year-old who can take care of themselves, that we could become foster parents. And we didn't actually know that our application had gone through. We had just gotten a phone call saying, we have a placement for you. Wow. And so that's kind of how everything had started. And we've been really fortunate to have an excellent caseworker who's made everything a lot easier. So we've really had a good experience with this so far.
Yeah. Well, ever since I was a little girl, I really wanted to adopt. It was funny because my sister would play with her babies, and they were all blonde-headed, like blue eyes, and she would name them all, and those were the kids. And I just wanted kids that didn't look like me. I don't know why. I just had always had a desire to adopt kids. I'm just attracted to people who don't look like me and don't sound like me. And so whenever I met my husband, we were just dating, and we were talking about getting engaged, and it was actually on his heart as well to adopt. So it was just kind of understood. And then once we got married, we went to an adoptions class, and they were actually just talking about the heart of the Father, how adoption is, it is a part of the Father's heart, but it's also, it comes down to reconciliation. And they just explained it so well, to where, foster care is us showing the children the Father's love, but it's also showing that birth mom or that birth dad the Father's love as well. And our first child that we got, we were actually able to see that reconciliation happen between like the child and his birth mom, and it's been the most beautiful thing. So when we went to that class, we just knew excuse me, we just knew that adoption definitely one day, but foster care was just where the Lord wanted us to be. And we went through Miracle Hill, but everything leading up to us getting licensed, it just happened so, everything just happened. I didn't have a job, and we were like, God, we can't provide for a child if we don't have money ourselves. And we were filling out that big packet of paper, and it came to that financial budget sheet, and I looked at it and I was like, pass. And I handed it to James, and he looked at it, and I saw him go like this, like, how are we gonna do this? And I looked over at my phone, and it started ringing, and I got a full-time job. So it's just everything. Whenever God tells you to do something and you're obedient, he just takes care of it all, and it just kind of all falls in place. So that's kind of how we started into foster
Well, like you, me and my husband both, like I've always had a heart for it, and I've always wanted to adopt. And my husband also, when we were dating, we talked about that, and that's kind of when I knew I was going to marry the guy. Is when he was like, I want to adopt too, and I was like, awesome. So we ended up getting pregnant shortly after marriage, so we weren't looking into it at that point. But as soon as our son was 3 months old, we were like, okay, let's start looking into adoption or fostering. Um, so my husband was already there for fostering. Like I think from the beginning he was ready to do that. But it took a little longer for me to get on board, just because, there are different risks you take with fostering, and it just looks different than adopting. And we already had a 3-month-old, and so I just wasn't sure what that looked like with us. So we pursued adoption a little bit after doing some research, and we were like, this just isn't working, and I just don't know if this is where we're supposed to do right now. And at the time, I really just wanted to get pregnant again. I was like, oh, it's just easier. Like, just let's get pregnant again, and that'll be easier. So we were one night, this is actually only 6 months ago, we were reading in Deuteronomy, of all places, and it was talking about the Israelites before they go into the promised land, and how they weren't, like, God wasn't saying, this is going to be easy, and you're going to be safe, and it's going to be great. It was like, this is going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to get out of, like, you're not going to like this sometimes, but you have to trust me. And of all things, we were reading that, and I go, we're supposed to foster. Like, this is going to be harder in some ways, but, like, this is God's heart for us right now. And so the next month, we started orientation, and we flew through the process. And, yeah, it's been such a cool experience so far. So we're definitely newbies at it. We're not experts by any means. But yeah, we definitely both, God laid it on our hearts in different times, and we still want to pursue adoption down the road, but for right now, like, we know that this is where God has placed us, and we know, like you said, like, this is definitely the Father's heart. Like, He adopts us into His family and takes care of us, and, like, for some of these kids, like, this may be the only time that they, like, hear the gospel, and so we want to make sure that, like, we use our resources right now. And while I was a stay-at-home mom as well, like, I plan to go back to work full-time, but I was like, while I'm a mom, let's just be a mom. Like, let's just do it. Like, let's be a mom to as many kids as I can. And so right now, while we have the resources to do that, we're like, let's pursue this. So, yeah.
And I like what you said about fostering, maybe a chance you can show them the gospel, and maybe the only chance, because it also may be the only chance that they ever see a home with a mom and dad that love each other. And this is what, like, your life can be. You can have a family where there's love and stability and all these things, and it doesn't matter. Some people feel like it doesn't matter how long you have them in your home. It doesn't matter how long they're in your home. There's a difference, and like how you said, you can be a resource to the parents as well. And a lot of people don't realize that. We have a good friendship with some of our old foster children's parents, and you can really be, it's a great time while they're working what they need to work on. They don't have to worry about their kids.
Right.
They can trust, and then you can build that relationship. So it's more than just ministering to the child, it's ministering to the family as well, which is a really awesome opportunity, I think.
I think something that we ran into as far as, like, people responding to us doing foster care, because it is such a recent decision we made, was when you feel called to foster care, like, suddenly the people around you are forced to be called to foster care as well.
So true.
Like, your parents are suddenly going to be foster grandparents, and your brothers and sisters are going to be foster aunts and uncles. And not that you have to necessarily have them on board, but you have to kind of walk them through that as well, and help them understand, this is why we're doing this. And even if they aren't individually called to do it themselves, like, explaining to them, like, how important their role is, because, like you said, like, they may not know what a nana and a papa look like, or an aunt and uncle look like, and letting them see, like, hey, these are other trusted adults that can love me for for now, and even if it's just very temporary. that this is what love looks like, and like I can love people like this as well, and this is how Jesus loves me. And so that's something we ran into, though, is just kind of, I remember I told my mom, she said, I just don't know if I can do it. And I said, I'm not really giving you a choice. Like, you have to. And she just kind of prayed through it. And she, I mean, of course, like once you hand a Nana a child, like they don't care. Like they're just going to love them. They don't care where that child came from. So that's something that we've seen that's been really cool to see our families embrace it in the last, couple months for sure. I don't know if y'all saw that at all.
Yeah. My well, our family was very accepting whenever we decided to. I think because they already knew that it was already on our hearts, so they had been preparing for it for a while. But it was really sweet. I mean, very sad, but it was really sweet whenever our first child went back. My mother-in-law, she just fell in love with him and talks about him to this day, just all the time. How's he doing? We had our second child's birthday, and he actually was able to come with his family, and so our whole family was able to see him again as well. So I don't know, I'm really thankful because I know that a lot of people don't have that luxury of everyone being supportive, but they've loved our children like their own grandkids, so it's just been really sweet.